We'll call the regular meeting in the New Ulm City Council for September 18th, 2018, 4:30 PM to order. First item on the agenda is your consent agenda items. What's your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Any discussion on any? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2A, conduct a public hearing to consider a resolution approving the use of tax abatement for DLC Manufacturing and Fabrication Project at 24 Thompson Street. Dave?
Dave Schnubbert, Community Development Director. DLC is proposing to construct a 36,000 square foot building with an attached loading and unloading facility in the Airport Industrial Park. And I might note that their building plans arrived in the office today. DLC has requested city financial assistance for this project, and it has been determined that tax abatement would be the most appropriate financial program to use. A tax abatement program allows the city to rebate a portion of the property taxes and use those proceeds to offset development or redevelopment costs. The city has two existing tax abatement programs. One is Frontier Labs. The other is Minnesota Valley Testing Labs. The city has retained the firm of Davidaro Associates to help us with the preparation of the appropriate documents. The maximum tax abatement amount would be $622,385. The maximum annual amount for tax abatement would be $31,119. Now, the annual tax abatement would be split between the city and DLC. The first $8,000 on an annual basis would go to the city of New Ulm, and it would be used to pay for property acquisition, an establishment fee, and other administrative and consulting expenses. The maximum amount that the city would receive is $135,000. The remainder of the tax abatement, which would be $487,385, would go to DLC, and it would be used for a variety of different improvements that would be taking place on the property. The term of a tax abatement for a city only is 15 years. The term can be increased to 20 years if the city grants the tax abatement and the school district or county chooses not to. Attached is a letter from Jeff Bertrang on behalf of New Ulm Public Schools stating that the proposed project is not within their core mission of education and they do not intend to participate in the tax abatement program. As a result of receiving that letter, the term of the tax abatement for DLC can be increased to 20 years. And that's the assumption that we have made in preparing the program. DLC will enter into a development and business subsidy agreement for the tax abatement. This is a requirement of state statutes. There is a job creation requirement, so they will retain 6 positions, and they will add 2 new positions. The hourly rate will be $14.48. That's exclusive of any benefits. Approval of the tax abatement will support an existing business and allow for its expansion. Attached is a draft resolution approving the tax abatement, and then the letter from Superintendent Bertrand.
Thank you, Dave. It's a public hearing. Anybody like to be heard? Anybody on the city council, comments, questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion, to close public hearing.
I'll offer a motion to close the public hearing and offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving the use of tax abatement for DLC manufacturing and fabrication project at 24 Thompson Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, close public hearing. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Heather, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 2B, consider resolution approving the reassessments of the 2007 special assessments on Lot 12, Block 4, Lot 1, Block 5, Dakota West Edition. Steve?
Mr. President, thank you. This is a public hearing on the reassessment of 2007 special assessments on two parcels up in Dakota West Edition. I have not received any written comments regarding this, and actually one of the parcels have already prepaid the assessment, but it's necessary to go through the process in order to collect the balance of the amounts. So it is a public hearing.
Okay. Anybody like to be heard? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
I'll offer a resolution and waive the reading, close the public hearing, and adopt the final assessment rolls for the 2007 reassessment on Lot 12, Block 4, and Lot 1 and Block 5, Dakota West Edition, payable over a 10-year period along with a 6% simple interest charge on the unpaid balance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, offer resolution, waive reading, and close the public hearing. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 2C, consider a resolution approving the reassessments of the unpaid 2005, 2007 special assessments on lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, Block 1, Minnesota River Valley subdivision. Mr. Gaylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very similar to the previous agenda item. This is 6 lots within Block 1 of the Minnesota River Valley subdivision. It encompasses special assessments from 2005 and 2007. I have not received any written or oral comments with regard to this. It is a public hearing.
Anybody like to be heard from the audience? Seeing none, again, entertain a motion, offer resolution.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, closing the public hearing, and adopting the final assessment rolls for the reassessment of the unpaid 2005 and 2007 special assessments on lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, Block 1, Minnesota River Valley subdivision.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, offer resolution, waive the reading, close the public hearing. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 3A, consider a motion approving the issuance of lawful gambling permit for the National Wildlife Turkey Federation Deer Deutsches Longbeards chapter to conduct a raffle gambling at the New Ulm Country Club.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and that's for February 2nd, 2019. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3B, consider a motion approving the issuance of a lawful gambling permit for the New Ulm Satoma Club to conduct raffle gambling at the New Ulm Country Club, and that's for January 23rd, 2019.
Motion to, go ahead.
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3C, consider a motion to approve the issuance of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for State Street Theater Company, and that's for November 2nd, 2018.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4A, consider a motion to receive a report from the Retail Services Specialist at New Ulm Chamber of Commerce regarding the activities during the month of May, June, July, and August 2018, including the Minnesota Main Street report information.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any more discussion?
Yeah, just an update on that. My understanding, they got the email broke or whatever, so they weren't getting sent to us like they were in the past. So once actually, Counselor Mack brought it up, and when I was checked into it, that's when we found that there was a break in the emails. So that's why you got them all of a sudden, and an update on that. I did have a question for Kara on this topic, though. If one of our business people approached me the other day or this weekend and asked if we would consider doing what Mankato's doing, now that we have a number of open retail stores downtown. In the mall in Mankato's doing pop-up shops. And what they're doing is, my understanding is, you come in with a product for 2 to 3 months, you get a very cheap rent, and the owners allow them to come in and sell a product, antiques, candies, some type of product, clothing, antique, whatever, just to keep that store open or reopen it. And I'm just curious if you had a chance to look into that, if you've had any thoughts on that topic.
Actually, I talked to the person who runs the Minnesota Main Street program in Mankato just yesterday at a meeting, and she is doing that. She acknowledged that, and she and I shared some comments back and forth. I'm looking into it. I'm going to bring it to the Downtown Action Team at our meeting this Friday.
Are they successful when they do that?
Sometimes. It depends on what they sell and how ambitious they are. Something else that they've also done is they've invited artists, local artists, to come in and display their pictures or pottery or whatever and sell on a limited time basis. So I think,
Pop-up shop interest is supposedly if somebody wants to sell antiques, for example, using that they bring their product in, they can't change, they can't paint, they can't really do anything
Right.
other than just sell the product.
right, just a temporary thing. It depends
Temporary
on.
thing, 3 months, and if it works, then they might actually rent or buy that building.
Correct.
And sell their product. For other ones, it's, more at Christmas time, and they're in and out, and those probably wouldn't have as high a priority as maybe the first options. But I kind of thought that might be a good option for us to take a look at, or for your position to look at.
Yeah. And I got some great ideas from Megan yesterday that I'll be looking into some of those.
Okay,
Okay?
great. Can you get us a follow-up with that? I would guess that's more of a summertime thing than a winter thing,
Actually, more of a Christmas thing,
Christmas thing.
fourth quarter.
But if we want to permanently fill a building.
Right.
So, yeah, you got to work with the landlords or the building owners and stuff too, but can you bring us back something on that when you get more information?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Question, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. Seeing none, we had a motion and a second. No more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4B, consider resolution to adopt the New Ulm Fire Department Relief Association benefit level for 2019 at $4,500 per year service. Any discussion on that?
Just double checking with the city attorney again. Excuse me, I asked this question last year. I'm a retired firefighter, 21 years of service. This does not affect my pension plan, therefore I'm allowed to vote, correct?
Yes, if it does not affect your plan, yes, you're allowed to vote.
Good question.
With that, I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to adopt the changes to the New Ulm Fire Department Relief Association pension benefit to $4,500 per year for service of 2019.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? We had a motion to offer resolution to waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4C, consider resolution to approve a 5-year agreement for insurance services for the city of New Ulm for the years beginning January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2023. Nicole?
As council has directed in the past, we have been going out for RFPs for some of our professional services every 5 years or so, with the option to renew them without redoing the RFPs. We're not required to do this for professional services, but we made that our practice. So we sent RFPs out to 22 local agencies. We received 2 responses, one from the Firth Insurance Agency and one from the David Hirth Agency. David Hirth came back with a 5% commission rate. The Firth Agency came back with a 6% commission rate, and they offered to do our workers' comp at no charge. Right now, we handle our own workers' comp claim. We don't use a designated agent. It would give us another set of eyes if we would opt to do that. If we would opt to do that, we're getting a service that would be valued at roughly $7,200 for no cost to us, and it's putting a second set of eyes on our workers' comp claims and giving us the option to maybe shop around for a better policy with someone other than the league. I have to add too that, we did this purely out of practice. We get great service. Firth provides us a great service right now. They're easy to work with and they're very responsive. So, other than that, I will leave the decision up to council.
So if we were to switch, what's our overall savings to the city?
The annual savings between a 5% and a 6% commission based on our current premium would be about $4,200.
Plus the 7,000 on the workers' comp, right?
Well, right now we have no cost for the workers' comp.
Okay, so yeah.
If we were to designate an agent, the average commission rate on that is 2%, which would be about $7,200. Firth is offering to do that at no charge. So it's a matter of how you value that service within the
Right.
RFP.
That's a service we did not ask for, though.
We left it in the RFP as an option for them to
Okay,
present.
as an option.
Yes.
Okay.
What you thinking?
I'm going to offer a motion, or offer a resolution to waive the reading and approve the 5-year agreement with the Firth Insurance Company.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer resolution, waived reading. Any more discussion?
I think we have I support the motion. I think it's one of those that's a real teeter-totter, though, when we have two local agencies willing to provide us a service at basically the same costs. I mean, really close. I do think that I like your comments about when you make a change to another agency, that creates a whole set of work. And I think had there been just a little bit more, I don't think I wouldn't be making this vote. So I think it comes down really close. But I think when you figure those costs in from all your staff having to change everything over to a new system, but had there been just another couple thousand more, I think I would have made the motion to go the other way. So I just wanted good bids, so.
Any more discussion? Seeing none? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4D, consider resolution approving the development and business subsidy agreement with DLC Manufacturing Fabrications Incorporated for a tax abatement assistance at 24 Thompson Street. Dave?
Dave Schnobrecht, Community Development Director. Okay, this action is associated with the earlier one. Since you now have approved tax abatement for DLC, we have to have a development and business subsidy agreement in place. So a copy of the agreement is included, as well as a draft resolution for this action. The agreement identifies how the tax abatement will be used, and there's also some items regarding the construction of the new manufacturing facility. City attorney and representatives of DLC have reviewed the document.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion?
This is not a public meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving a development and business subsidy agreement with DLC Manufacturing and Fabrication for tax abatement assistance at 24 Thompson Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 4E, consider a motion authorizing the city manager to sign a contract documents to have Bolton and Mink Incorporated prepare plans and specifications for the Herman Heights Park Hillside Stabilization Project.
Chapter 3, right?
4.
Four.
Chapter 4.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department, President Schmitz and counselors. You have some photos, today's photos from both the north side and south side of the Center Street Hill, the MLC walls and the Herman Heights walls. Also Summit Avenue walls on the MLC side. A few tidbits of information I'd like to relay. First of all is that, you know, the cost difference between option 1 and option 2 would complete the funding of the German Park Outdoor Performing Arts Center, the German Park Amphitheater that we've been funding for, or trying to fundraise for quite some time. There's over $300,000 in cash and pledges, and another $300,000 would complete the $600,000 package to complete the German Park Amphitheater. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Also, the photos will depict that the MLC walls, you know, are relatively low. You know, they're not all the way up tiered walls like we have at Herman Heights. And so at the top edge of their lower walls, so to speak, it slopes all the way up to the top, and their landscaping is on that slope. It's not on terraces, it's on an angle. There are a number of weeds and volunteer trees I saw in there today. You can see those depicted on the photos. You know, that would require some kind of tricky maintenance to get people walking up and down those slopes where the mulch is, to weed and maintain the vegetation. The walls on Summit Avenue are quite a bit shorter in height than the Center Street walls. Some of those are already leaning in and, you know, kind of bowing out. The north and south side of the Center Street Hill, the MLC side and the Herman Heights Park side, do have different slope trees. Another option you may consider is to design and bid both option 1 and 2, and then make your decision later as far as possibly awarding the project. Our maintenance department, maintenance supervisor Ryan Wire and I and another maintenance supervisor, we still stand firm that the maintenance cost would be less with grass. We're already up there with riding lawnmowers, a little bit more zip up and down the hill. We're done for the week, and weeding and maintaining vegetation we feel is much more extensive than mowing it. So we still would agree that mowing the grass would be less costly and less maintenance over time. So yes, Mayor.
It says the Park and Recreation Commission recommended, and this was the only option presented to the commission. Am I correct that the Park and Rec Commission voted on a split to not go with the slope?
Thank you, Mayor. I did miss stating that here under the board and commission recommendation. Back on April 9th, only option 1 was presented to the commission, and they wanted to forward that on to you for acceptance. September 10th, we provided them all 4 options that you have previously seen. And the commission, there were 7 of 9 commissioners present, and the vote was 5-2. 5 for the retaining walls and 2 for grass slope.
And was it primarily aesthetic reasons, or is that what, the look more than just the, having a grass slope, I would assume? I didn't hear the discussion.
I know the 2 voters for the grass slope like the less cost. We're in budget time, and that extra 300 plus K could be utilized elsewhere. So I know that's one of the main reasons they voted for the grass slope: less cost, less maintenance, less development, and less maintenance. The 5 people voting for, the 5 commissioners voting for the walls are probably of the opinion that, Counselor Christian and Counselor Schultz have said in the past, the aesthetics. You want to match the sides of the hill.
I know that I think all of us counselors have been getting hit with some emails and letters and phone calls this week and the last couple of weeks on this topic. And to summarize, I had one question from one of our more senior residents who said when they tried to put on the fence around Herman, City of New Ulm, that the state Historical Society said no, because it would change the appearance of the view of Herman. So if we plan on taking down trees and re-sloping it, aren't we doing the same thing, and don't we need their permission, or do we not? That was a question that I had.
My opinion is that we do not need state approval for this. The proposal for the arch was on the fence. And we kind of view the fence as the boundary line between state power and municipal authority is generally how we feel.
The same senior also talked about that hill has a lot of what he believes a lot of underground springs, which is one of the reasons why it keeps pushing away at the Casota Stone. And whether we build with a retaining wall system or we do the slope, we're going to have issues with this underground springs. Thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are that the hill on Fifth North, the Diocese Hill, they mow it, and there aren't rivers, ravines, erosion, springs popping out of that grass slope.
Now, this would be a higher, steeper slope, correct, on Center? Or pretty close?
Near the restroom building would probably be the steepest slope, is my understanding.
Yes.
And elsewhere would be a similar slope to.
And we don't contract out for any of that mowing now up on Center Street. That's all city staff doing that.
Correct.
And with this steepest slope, we have equipment that can do it. Even at that steep, we won't be contracting out for someone to mow that portion.
Ryan Wire, Facilities Maintenance Supervisor, City of New Ulm. Yes, Council, we currently already have multiple slopes in the system that we mow that are 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 or even steeper than that.
Okay.
It definitely requires a management tool of making sure the weather is correct and the ground is correct, but it is easily maintainable with the current equipment that we have.
Those are questions people were asking me, and I didn't have answers to. Thank you.
Comment I want to make, talked to a lot of people since the Park and Rec Commission meeting. A lot of ideas were brought out. What I'm getting from the general public is like a 50-50. Some say do it right the first time, don't come back later. Some don't want to spend anything on it. Some are saying fix the wall that we have. I think we got a whole lot of other options that have not been looked at. I know we had ordered Park and Rec to go out and look. I think there's cost savings options out there, different kind of topography, different types of prairie grasses, different vegetations, not just have to exactly do what MLC. I want more back on it. I'm not going to vote for anything this evening. I want more back on it. Too many options are out there, items we can save money on without having to spend $550,000 on that hill.
Dave?
Okay, Dave Schnobrick, 312 North Garden Street, New Ulm. As a kid, Growing up in New Ulm, spent a lot of time at Westside Park and at Herman Heights Park. So I've always considered it to be New Ulm's #1 park. And I think it's the #1 park because, one, the monument is there, but #2, it's also served as kind of a community gathering place, a lot of family gatherings take place there as well. The retaining wall on the Herman side has been in place since 1971. So that's 48 years. And the wall is still in the original position it was placed at that time. Now, the wall has moved, and I'm aware of at least one situation where we had to hire an outside contractor to come in and do some repair work on the wall. The MLC wall is 19 years old. Plantings were installed by the MLC students. They consider it a successful project for them, and I guess are pleased with its performance to date. One of the things I'd like to note is that we do have a master plan for Herman Heights Park. It dates from January 5th of 2009. We hired a consultant to do it. And there's a section called retaining walls, and that section has 4 bullets, and I'm going to read the first one and the fourth one. First one says it is recommended that the existing Kasota stone walls are replaced with a retaining wall system that matches/complements the retaining walls on the Martin Luther College campus. The fourth bullet reads, an option not shown in the plan would replace the retaining walls with an earthen embankment. If this option is chosen, there would be a 20-foot loss of usable space within the park. The existing spruce trees would also be lost in the process of creating the embankment. I would note that this is one of the few planning processes that I've gone through where we had pretty decent community participation in the preparation of the plan. Now, one of the things I'd like to point out that is when you look at the cost estimate for option 1, look at the cost estimate for option 2. For option 1, there's 6,000 cubic yards of excavation. So that means we're taking ground away from the site. So if you use 10 cubic yards per dump truck, and that's what the engineering staff said would be appropriate, that's 600 trips that we're removing soil with. Now, we're bringing some back, 110 trips. I assume that's going to be black dirt. In option 2, we also lose soil, ground. That's 170 trips, and we're bringing back 50. So you can see with option 1 that the hillside is being fairly well remade. And the restroom is going to become a fairly prominent feature on the hillside. Now, we've got cost differences between option 1 and option 2, and they're pretty significant. So are there ways to save money? And I think there's potentially a bunch of different ways that we could, consider saving money. One is the suggestion that was made by Councilor Schultz at our last meeting, where maybe you combine the Renew and this project together. And in that way you get some savings in having a larger project. And 2, you minimize disruption in the park, because otherwise you're going to be ripping the park up at 2 different times, and that's not going to serve the park or visitors very well. Now, I checked with a local contractor if he saw any problem with doing this. Is it possible to keep the costs separate? And that contractor said wouldn't be a problem. A second way that we potentially could save money is there's $140,000 worth of plantings. Why don't we do the plantings ourselves? Another option is we've got $101,000 for design and engineering costs. Maybe we can move some of those costs in-house. Not all of them, but some of them. Another option would be to redesign the, what I'm going to call the Summit Avenue side of the improvement to have more grass. You know, don't necessarily regrade that area, or it's going to have to be regraded, but maybe not use the walls and have grass in that area and not shrubbery. We have a contingency of about $45,000. Obviously, that has to stay in, but, you know, this is an area that, you know, where walls have been located, and so hopefully we'll be able to realize some savings there. And there may be other areas where we can save some money. I don't know if the Casota stone has a value. Maybe there are some people that would want the Casota stone, you know, for the cost of removal. Who knows? I think there's also another way to look at the difference in cost. Let's say that we have a difference in cost of $200,000. People I've talked to tell me that the retaining walls have a life of 40 years. 40 years by $200,000, that's $5,000 a year. That's a pretty minimal cost. So, I think for the #1 park in New Ulm, that special places deserve special treatment. Thank you.
Say, Dave. Since that was one of your favorite parks in New Ulm, you played at it all these years, how would you like to head up a committee to work on this?
I would be happy to.
I think that's where we really need to go. I think we need to set up a committee, have somebody like Dave, if it's his passion and whatever, and bring it back to us, you know. Get a counselor or two to sit on there with you.
Yep.
Mr. Kaler, maybe Mr. Curry back there. And let's see what we can do. See if we can make it work within house, a lot of it, and.
And we're not under a
No problem.
timeline. It doesn't have
No,
to
there
be
is-
done.
we
this
aren't on
year.
a timeline. Well, we don't have the money to get on a timeline.
Right.
I mean, it's been there for 48 years, so if and we're talking probably another couple of years before our renew projects, so if we focus on it over the winter, maybe come back in spring.
Mhm.
Renew that, I don't know if that project would be 2 years out. Would it be, Brian?
I think
That
the actual
particular one?
timing hasn't really been set, but it could be,
Could
we're
be
planning on having the plans and specs made so that we can pull the trigger on that project whenever it
Is that
is
timeline?
best.
Right.
It'll depend
That's
on the
done.
cost spent down for the bonding and what's
Yep.
needed to meet those requirements.
I did have, as what Dave brought up, I did have some number of people, they agreed when we're gonna rip that hill up, it should be a one rip, not rip it up one summer and then turn around and rip it up another summer. People that want to use our parks and use have their picnics and things up there, they're not gonna wanna do that with a bunch of big equipment running around and making a lot of noise. They're just not. So I think when we make that decision, we should try and tie those projects as close together as possible, but.
You know, and I'd just like to make a comment, I know option 3 they had picked out here with a set of stairs, but, you know, it's another staircase to maintain, and, you know, then do you have to rope the staircase off for winter, for ice and snow and things of that nature, and really, it's not a parking lot right on Center Street there that you're gonna get out to wanna walk up the staircase, so is it just more aesthetics, and does that add to the cost of the project, so.
Yeah, we kind of eliminated 3 and 4
Yeah,
last time,
you know,
sort of,
I'm just
basically.
referencing this one here, but I guess I'm not prepared tonight to make any decision on it. I'd like to.
I'd like to interject 2 quick things. One is that the design and bidding would probably be best done in the winter, and we could do that with this, and the Renew project is getting close to that stage. There's a possibility they both could be planned for construction in 19. It's a possibility. The other one was Mr. Schnobrecht's comment about the value of the existing Casota stone limestone block. I have surveyed every landscaping company in New Ulm and our major street builder private firm in town, and no one is interested in
Really?
those blocks. They would charge money to dispose of them. I said, if you can come get them, take them for free, and keep them for free, how much would you pay the city? And they all said, 0, we're not interested. We would, you know, those blocks.
Thanks for checking though, because
Yeah.
that could have been a definite
Yeah.
interest.
you.
I thought we would have saw something there, but.
Thank
But,
you.
yeah, but on that topic though, when MLC got rid of theirs, I think they had bunches of pallets and they said, you either paid a nominal fee or you came and got them. Because I remember people going, getting the Casota stone for their own landscaping
Yeah,
in their own
exactly.
backyard.
Yeah.
So there may be a way to, if nothing else, have that cost be zero. Or it
Bet
could
it would
cost
be.
us equipment just to get it off the hill, just so people could pick it up.
Drop it at City Hall on some pallets and it'll be gone by the weekend. Gone by the weekend.
Go ahead.
Michael Shanneman, 118 North Garden. Like to talk a little bit about the plan, and basically, it's a tough decision, and I'm in agreement with President Schmitz on this, to set up a committee to work it through, because a lot of this is not necessarily done in a 3D rendering. I went to the county and got topography maps of the MLC Hill, and I also got topography maps of the Archdiocese. So what my thought is we could take the proposed plan, overlay it to the diocese to see if the slope is even close. And I also think that would be a vision for the council to see how different the MLC Hill is versus the Herman Hill. I measured the hill this Sunday morning. The MLC is 91 feet up. Herman Hill is only 51. So that's a significant, it's shorter by 40 feet. So you're gonna have to cut out so much more to do a mirror image. And as difficult as that is to understand, Germans will drive up that hill and go, oh, they're a foot off. I know they're a foot off. And you know the way you look at a level. You know, you see something that's not level, and they spent that kind of money on fixing it, they're gonna really nail you on it. The other thing I noticed while I was on the hill measuring, the MLC side is facing the north. That evergreens and all the plantings on the north are shaded more than the southern exposure. If we were to try to mimic what is on the MLC side, our side would burn up, and you would replace that $90,000 over and over and over if you don't put irrigation up. The other thing, and Mr. Schnobrecht brought it up, the cut fill on that. What I asked Tom about, why are we maintaining non-playable green space? It's a hill that is so severe that you can't even stand on it if you were to try to play on it. So we're taking this hill in front of Herman and mowing it and putting our operators at risk. I mean, they've mowed it for years and nothing has happened yet. Early morning, they can't mow. After it rains, they can't mow because it's slick. If they drop it, they're going to expose the outhouse on the hill, and everybody's going to go, oh, I've seen that building. I haven't seen that in years, the restroom. So we're going to take and grade up to the restroom. As the master plan states, the restroom's not going to be there. So you're going to have to go back on the hill and excavate the hill once more to get the restroom either knocked down or moved. So that's touching it twice. So what we're talking, I mean, here again, we're talking about saving money, saving effort, doing it one time right. And in going through the plans are, you know, it's a 50-50 shot. So that's why I'm not going to talk anymore, because I am so passionate about this, to do it right. We cannot be like every other, or not we, excuse me. Herman cannot be like every other city park. We can't exterminate all the pine trees up there. We can't level it and then bring it down to elevation just so it's easier to mow. That's a significant part of our German heritage. It's an international tourist destination. And if we were to sterilize it by knocking the trees down, we ultimately take the root system out that's holding the hill up anyway. So, I mean, we have to look at this as a group and as a study to see the long-term effect of taking those trees out. You're going to expose Herman to the elements. You're going to take the soil, what is holding the soil up there, the roots, and you're going to eliminate that just to make it easier to mow and drop the hill. Or to put up, like we were talking about here again, I talked with my counselor on this because he's representing me, and I gave him my thoughts, and also wanted to not be, I want us to think more, I want us to think this out more. It can't be something that is just thrown out there. It's a lot of money. And that money can be used for German Park, it could be used for the soccer association, and other playable green space, other parks that need money. If we throw this at a mulch hill, the last time I checked, no one was taking selfies of the mulch hill at MLC. If it's in front of Herman, that's where we need to put our money. The side hill is something that doesn't necessarily complement the front of Herman. So if we talk about the cut fill that we're talking about moving dirt, let's move the dirt in front of Herman so that way when the person's taking the picture, they're not falling down the hill. So I was out there Sunday morning and a lady's hanging on the hill taking a picture of Herman. I don't even know how she was standing there. So I mean, these are the things that we need to consider is the tourists that are coming in. Right now, the Kasota Stone has one burp in it. Okay, so I consider that a pothole. That, as the paper said and as everybody's saying, the Kasota Hill is crumbling. Last time I checked, it's not crumbling. It's got a pothole. We don't replace the entire Center Street Boulevard because it has a pothole. We fix the pothole and continue to drive. It's too costly to repair the entire, I don't even know how many linear feet of Kasota Stone there is, but that's a lot of work to get out and also get rid of. I suggested 2 years ago that we put plantings on either end so that way the tourists don't move within the walls of the Kasota. And if you were to put plantings in between right now, maintenance wouldn't have to mow. There'd be no charge to the city for mowing, and it would also beautify the hill. The Kasota Stone, just like down by the restroom at Harmon Park, those chunks, are they not Kasota?
Yeah, they're limestone.
Okay. On 14 going out of town, the brand new road that's being fixed. What are those chunks? Kasota. So we're missing the identity of our landscaping. We're taking out Kasota Stone on the wall, but we're putting it around to beautify our town. So I'm missing the whole, it has to be unified. So if it's good for the new, why isn't it good for up on the hill? I mean, we're taking money and spending it, but is it for the right reason is my question. You know, we could take and really dig into this. I wanted to suggest a committee that is passionate about this hill, that brings in press, that brings in tourists, that brings in someone that was here 2 years ago, but because of what we're doing, people are coming back to get excited about what Herman looks like. Herman's going to be under construction for a while, but if we do it in the correct phases, people can still come in busloads to New Ulm, to Herman, to visit. We cannot close it off to the public. Thank you.
I agree with you. I'm not ready to go out and have plans and specifications drawn up or anything like that. Kind of like Dave talked, I really think we need a committee together. I think we need to look at all of our options. I don't care if it takes a year, 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever. Do it right. And
But let's maybe lock up that 280 for this project and not let that go back to
we
the
need to
general
keep
fund.
putting money aside just in
Mhm.
case we're going to need
Whatever
it.
it is we to come up with.
Right.
Yep.
But I don't think I'm ready to approve any kind of designs or plans or anything, any phase or whatever you want to call it. I think we got a couple passionate people here, and I think we need to get them on committees. Let them go. Let's see where it goes.
I'm willing to join that committee since I
You're on it.
brought this. I figured I would get appointed anyway. Who else would like to be?
As someone who also grew up on that park in Hill,
You're already on it.
I'd like to be on the committee.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right.
So we got Dave back there.
Need an engineer or city staff to help us with some of this stuff, so.
I think we need to have Mr. Curry on it and Mr. Kaler. and-
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Sounds good? But we'll need a motion to go forward with something.
I'll offer that motion since I will. So I'll offer a motion to create a committee to look at the Herman Heights Hill, and a committee to be designated by, in case we're missing anybody, I don't know if I want to lay it in, just stated by our chair. You. That work?
That works.
Or the mayor, I don't care. Mayor, you want that task?
You guys are in charge. If you want me to be that task, I will
I
accept.
don't want too large a committee because then nothing gets done. But
Right.
you want that size where you can get different input from different folks to move this project forward. And
Looks like
so
there's
Tom
5
doesn't get too
passionate
stressed out
people.
over the year.
Right now, it looks like there's 5 passionate people. Maybe you need a 6th person in case somebody can't make a meeting, but,
Are we missing any, maybe somebody that works with plants and that kind of stuff too?
Well, don't we have a gardener or anybody for the city staff or?
That's why it'd be nice to have maybe the mayor in
We have
charge.
a lady raising her hand.
Tom should be on it. Shouldn't Tom be on it?
Maybe city staff would be on it.
City staff.
Okay. So I'll designate, my motion will be that the mayor determines the makeup of the committee. But let's, I think 6, 7 max, then our city staff, obviously, with Tom and our engineer. That's included in that as well. Okay?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Chapter 5. on
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Thank you.
Poor Tom.
Item 5A, consider resolution adopting the support of a small town regional brutality investment act 2018. Mr. Cummins?
Mayor Boisman attended a meeting with Representative Waltz recently, and he provided this information, which is the bill summary and press release, and then the draft resolution. And if we would be so inclined, we would adopt a resolution, in support of utilization of that economic development tool.
just a slight follow-up. This is hopefully going to be introduced before Representative Walz's term is up. And hopefully it will be continued on once it gets introduced. It's a program that basically is offering some money to small town. Now, small town is considered 30,000 or less. It doesn't say Greater Minnesota, it doesn't say Metro, it's small town. Because even in the Metro, some of the small towns are struggling. So this would be helping supposedly any other town, any town, township under 30,000 people. So it looks like a really good plan. That's if we can get other people to jump on the bandwagon and go. And this is what it's for, is to let the rest of the House know that there's support out here in the country.
I like it. I'll offer a resolution, waive the reading, approving the support of the Small Town and Regional Vitality Investment Act 2018.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5B, consider resolution to accept donations offered to the city for the Park and Recreation Department.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to accept the following donations to the city of New Ulm for the Park and Rec Department. Herman 5K race sponsorship, $150 cash from Dietrich Specialties, $150 cash from Gissison Law Office, $150 cash from Century 21 Red Shoe Realty, and $150 cash from Riverview Sanitation. German Park Paper Stone Improvements, $100 cash from Paulette Call honoring New Ulm Cathedral Class of '83.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Seeing none, Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. Items 5C.
The thank you letters will be in the mail by noon.
Sounds great.
Very good.
Consider a request from Jeff Bry to increase the number of taxi licenses allowed by the city of New Ulm. Brian?
As you have on the issue sheet, City Code Section 4.52, taxi cabs limits the number of licenses allowed to be issued to one license for every 2,000 people in the city of New Ulm. We're currently maxed out. And if the city is interested in allowing an additional taxi license, we would have to either adjust the calculation to 1 per 1,000 people, or the other alternative would be to just deregulate and let the market decide how many taxis there are. If there's any public safety, issue that, whenever you do a license, it's all based on public safety. If there's no concern for that, you could deregulate, or you can adjust the calculation. Or if you want to, you can leave the number just the way it is and issue no more new taxi licenses.
Do we know the history behind this?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to
Sorry.
say, just so, if I can interrupt.
Yeah.
I think that city manager has outlined the 3 options that are before you, which is to basically do nothing, to adjust the formula, or to deregulate totally. But you will need to amend the ordinance. This ordinance is in place right now. You can't just vote and have it take effect. We would need to amend the ordinance
Okay.
according to however you want to direct our office to do it, and go through the normal process.
Right. The motion would be to instruct the city attorney to prepare an amendment to the city code and then bring it back, and it would have to go through first reading, second reading, publication before it would go into effect.
And I'm not aware of anything regarding the history of why we came up with 1 license per 2,000.
Is that common in any other city, or, when I
Well-
first heard that, I was like, really? Why is that
Yeah, I think
there?
in New York, you're limited by, the number of taxi that can operate. So I don't know that it's not unheard of,
Okay.
but we went from having 1 vehicle to issuing all of the available licenses to now actually, somebody actually wants us to expand it. So
So we have 6 licenses then, or 7?
actually 7, yeah.
7.
It must have been a rounding effort to go from,
So the former company is not included in any of those licenses. This is only the 2 new companies.
correct.
Okay.
And actually, to be quite honest, there was a discussion during the last applicant that I think took the last 3, something effective. I think conversation went along the lines of, well, I can bring in this other vehicle. I've got 3, but I might have 6 vehicles in Mankato. I can bring that other one in. And I think we all went, yeah, that's no problem. And technically, that can't happen, because the vehicle is the one that's actually licensed, it's specified. We don't have like a fleet license where you can, bring any number you want in. So if somebody wanted to bring in, they can identify their 3 vehicles. If they want to bring in the bus, the 50-person bus for a taxi, they would technically need another license also. That's up to the city council to decide how many you want to have and why you want to limit it to a certain number. But I think the times have changed from whence this was originally drawn up.
Right.
Would this be a 3rd company?
This would be a 3rd provider, correct?
Well, I think we need to adapt a little bit because of all of our festivals, and we don't want to limit ourselves. I mean, with driving, if people want options, to get home from the festivals or to get to them. So I think we look at increasing it.
I think I've had this conversation with Roger. If anybody wants Lyft or any of those type of things, technically they would need a taxi license, correct?
That's correct, Mr.
So I think,
President.
open it up.
But on the other hand, I know that the Uber and Lyft are trying to get statewide legislation passed that would allow them to operate without having to do this. That's not in place yet. So if that would be going on in New Ulm, it wouldn't be lawful without having
Well, it
a
is going
cab
on.
license.
We do have a Lyft driver in town.
Well, he's breaking the law then.
No. I don't think he operates a lot, but he's around. I like the idea of opening up. We can get a local provider that wants to come in here. So I'm going to offer a motion to have our city attorney draft an ordinance change, making this proposal. that you?
Yep, that's me.
Do you want to say anything about this at all? Come up here if you do. Come up here.
Name and address for the record, please, at the mic.
Yeah, just that I'll be a local guy, you know, I'll be here all the time. The other two companies are Ready to Ride and Cato Cab, which neither are local. Cato Cab actually comes over mostly during peak hours, and Ready to Ride does mostly medical stuff, so there really isn't anybody do your day-to-day stuff.
Okay.
And I'd be there for that.
And you understand this is going to, process takes a while. We have to change the ordinance.
Yeah, I spoke with the city manager a little bit about it, about 60 to 90 days or something we had spoke with, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have a motion, but I don't know if we had a second.
Did we have a second?
I'm not sure what the
I don't
motion
think
is.
we
I'm not sure what the
Oh,
motion is
clarify the
either.
motion.
Clarify the
Change it
motion.
out.
That was my question. What number we want to go with? Unlimited?
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
One per 1,500, one per 1,000?
Do we need a
Yes,
number?
I think we do.
Unlimited,
It's either unlimited or a
The
number.
market take care of itself?
right. That'd be my opinion.
Well, I mean, we've got the peak times where we need additional taxis, you know, with our festivals, so I think we need to find that happy medium. I don't know if it's 10 or 12 or, you know, to provide enough services.
I still go with the fact that I don't know if we need one, if the market can handle
Well,
it.
I think with Uber and Lyft and those, if they technically need a license, we could have a half a dozen or a dozen of those too, possibly. So if we set a number, we're gonna be right back here at the table, or
Yep.
could be again.
Yeah, if they want to come in for a license, you're right.
Or do we, I think Brian mentioned it there, I mean, do we need to limit it to the size of the vehicle or how many people you're transporting in this taxi? If it's a bus or if it's a van, or is there a size limit? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know that I am
Just-
putting forth any discussion on the size of the vehicles. I just remember the conversation was that the individual that was before us said, I have another vehicle like on high-use events that I could bring over, and can I, is that included? And we all kind of went, yeah, we can work that through, but legally we can't.
Yeah.
So if you deregulate, you know, as long as they come in and get a taxi license and they, you know, follow the insurance and the safety and
They
all
have
the
to
other
provide
things.
maintenance records too, or whatever for that, for each
Yeah.
license, for each designated
Yeah,
vehicle.
so as long as they follow the rules, it's,
We don't really have a problem then with the number
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
would have.
Correct.
we're not concerned about 12 passenger or 2 passenger
Sure.
or 50 passenger if they follow the rules.
Okay.
I'm going to try it again. I'll offer a motion to have the city attorney deregulate this ordinance with no limit on number of vehicles.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any more discussion?
And then that'll just, with that being, then everyone will have to have a license and follow the procedures, and law enforcement will
Market
enforce
will-
it.
Market will take care of itself, I think.
Yeah.
And there might be a niche for all three of them, as Mr. Bray said, so.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
Is that helpful, Roger? Is that enough?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5D, consider resolution accepting the preliminary 2019 budget of the city of New Ulm and establishing a maximum property tax levy for the 2019 and setting a public hearing date to consider the 2008, should be 19 budget, correct? Okay. Correction.
Typo.
Okay, so up to date, the budget process, we started with a council work session, and then the department heads put their budgets together and submitted those. We followed that with another work session with council. So the budget that's being presented here really is the result of all three of those processes coming together. It's still open for changes as of, we need to set the preliminary tax levy before the 30th of September. And at that point, the levy can only be decreased, it cannot be increased. So there can still be changes made, it's just a matter of which way those changes are gonna go. So if anything else needs to be added, we would have to take other things out in order to accommodate those changes after it's set tonight, so. I'll go through this probably fairly quickly, and if you have any questions or discussion or whatever as we go, I'm open to that. So just the LGA, which is a large part of our revenue that we depend on, is provided by the state. It's local government aid. There was no change in it at the state level. It was just the current funding was just reallocated a little bit, so we received a small increase for 2019 of about $4,200. And then looking, so our total expenses, which of course is the driving force behind what the tax levy is, in the current budget, there's a $914,000 increase, or about a 4.5% increase in the expenses over the 2018 budget. The large portion, about $716,000 of that increase, is due to contributions that have been designated for the fire equipment and the building sinking funds to help fund future projects that may be needed out of those two, or to replace equipment at the fire department. The remaining $200,000 is made up of a number of things. There's a 2.5% wage increase budgeted. The health insurance went down 5%. There's a 3 to 7% increase in some of the other insurances. So things like that kind of, ebbed and flowed and we ended up with a $914,000 increase in the expenses as of right now. So then looking at the levy as it comes down really to the bottom line. Oh. Sorry, I'm changing on my computer, not up there. So what it comes down to is a $633,000 increase in the tax levy, which is about 8.7% over 2018's budget. Really, the debt service levy stays flat. $205 decrease due to some payoff of the 2011 debt this year that was able to stay where it's at. So like I said, it's about an 8.7% increase in the levy as of right now. And then, as I stated before, this is just some of the other highlights that contributed to the current increase. Of course, health insurance premiums went down, which is, of course, wonderful and unexpected. Wage increases budgeted at 2.5%. That's a COLA adjustment that will likely fall somewhere closer to 2.1, but we won't know for sure until the union wages are set, and that's all based on the CPI. So we'll have to wait and see what the inflation rate has been. The police and fire para contributions are increasing 0.75% in 19, and then another 0.75% in 2020. So that had some impact on the budget. The workers' comp and the property insurances, the league directed us to estimate a 3 to 7% increase for those. I think we went with the middle of the road, about 4% on everything. And then the contributions to the building renovation and the fire equipment fund were the large portion of any increases. So within the budget, there's always room, to use different funding sources to pay for things to keep the levy down. In order to get to the current increase, we did opt to use the fund balance for some projects that are within the budget right now. Those include the things listed here, like the general plan update, the local intel, which would be a statistical software, to my understanding, a new mail inserter machine for the utility billing mostly, and that's only half of the cost. That is split with the PUC, with the utilities. Then the police department wanted to upgrade their interview room, replace some firearms. The fire department needs to do some maintenance on the interior of the bell tower at the main fire station. And then updating or removing the remaining sidewalk pavers. That's in the street department's budget, and that's downtown, I believe. And then a portion of the columbarium. So the cemetery commission has decided to add another columbarium. The current one is getting full. They can fund most of it through other funds, but this would be the portion that they didn't have enough to cover, and that could go down depending on the actual cost of the columbarium. So that's about $124,000 that we would use of the fund balance. So that would bring our fund balance down, well, it would still leave our fund balance at about a 60%, and we're recommended to have a 35 to 50% fund balance. So we still have a healthy fund balance using that portion. Now, these are some of the things that were left in. I have to add, the departments kept their budgets very conservative. There was really no changes in operations. There wasn't any large increases in anything. Sorry. So these items were projects that really are probably needed to maintain operations of those. They're just some of the larger options or items that were in the budget. So those include a drainage study for about $30,000, 2 new police department vehicles for about $66,000, and that's every year they replace 2 vehicles, so that's just continuing their current rotation of vehicles. 88 curbs, and that would be included, I believe, in the USA projects, and that's just a transfer to the street department to help fund those. An upgrade to the ArcGIS, cartograph equipment, I believe, ADA transition inventory, storm feasibility, Cottonwood Street property acquisition, and a design for the sanitary lift station at 20th North, and then some survey equipment for the engineering department. So. Now those things, like I said, are all in the tax levy. We could still opt to use fund balance for some of those if you would decide to reduce the levy some. Now, these are some projects that we are using the 290 funds for, and so the capital improvement funds is money that we've set aside, and that's what those 2 contributions were that I referred to before. That money is set aside and then used for projects as we go. So we have a plan or an idea of what that schedule is of some of the replacements of equipment and buildings and repairs that are needed, and then we try to factor in what would we need to contribute every year in order to maintain that fund balance so that we can do these repairs and replacements as they're needed. So these are the funds that are designated to be used out of that in the current budget. That would include the Goosetown Fire Drill Tower, roof on the library. I know they've had a lot of leaks and some issues this year, so they're due for that. The main fire station HVAC system, the columbarium, and some of those funds actually come from a cemetery fund, and like I said, the possible $12,000 used from the city funds. The rec center needs a new boiler, and I know we talked about doing that in phases, or you talked about the timing of that, but that whole amount could come out of this capital improvement fund, as well as the Glockenspiel controller and the remaining 4 figurines that need to be done there. So that uses about $1.4 million of that fund, which right now, that's about half of what's in that fund. So by putting the $460,000 back in, we would be replenishing some of that usage. And then the fire department, their sinking fund is currently very healthy. They have more than enough to replace this engine for $560,000 next year, and then are still on track to keep up with what they may need for future years. So what it comes down to, the current budget is an 8.7% increase in the tax levy due to the increase in the tax capacity or the increase in property values, which went up about 7.8%. An 8.7% levy increase would increase the city's tax rate about 1%. So taxpayers would see an increase in their taxes, of course, one due to their property value increases, and then an additional increase in the city tax rate. So that is what's in the current budget. Just to talk about some of the options or some of the things to consider as we maybe look at some changes to the preliminary. For every $110,000 that we use of the fund balance, it lowers the levy increase by 1%. Or no, I read that wrong. That's the fund balance. For every $110,000 of the fund balance that we use, the fund balance percentage goes down 1%. For every $75,000 of the levy that we reduce, or that we reduce the levy by, the levy would reduce by 1%. Or the levy increase would reduce by 1%. If we would use, and just to throw this out there, if we would use the fund balance to cover the entire levy increase of $633,000, the fund balance would drop to about 55%. So it's still above that 35 to 50% suggested range. and the tax rate would decrease about 6%. Otherwise, if we just wanted to get to a point where we had absolutely no impact on the tax rate, so that would end up being about a $535,000 increase in the levy, or a 7.42% increase in the levy. And that would bring the fund balance down to $59,000. We would have to use an additional $98,000 of fund balance to get to that point. So that is what I have for that. So I am open to discussion at this point.
Thank you, Nicole. Any comments or concerns or suggestions?
We had, last year we had a very low tax levy increase of 1.76, 1.86. So we knew last year that this year was going to be a little rougher. And we all agreed upon that last year when we made that motion. But I can't live with that number. There's no way. So we got to do something.
Last year, the levy increase of 1.68%, which actually had a negative effect on our tax rate. The city tax rate went
Right.
down about 2% last year.
I guess I could see using a little bit of fund balance, as Nicole said, just to break it even so there is no tax increase to the residents, which would take what, another,
Another $98,000 of fund
Yeah.
balance. So most
that would not
taxpayers
have a
would probably,
huge impact.
at that point, taxpayers would probably still see a slight increase in their taxes based on the
Based-
property values
correct,
alone, but not
but
on the
not
tax
due to
rate.
us.
Yeah.
And how much would that cost us?
But another $98,000 of fund balance,
98,000.
which still leaves our fund
I'd-
balance at
I'd support that.
59%.
At 59?
Yep.
Just still almost 10% above the recommendation.
We still need to put money in our reserves and stuff like that, and that's what
Right.
we forgot to do last year. We didn't forget, we just didn't.
We didn't.
And we really need to continue
We-
putting
we
some
probably
money
should've.
aside, so I guess,
Because we're gonna have other expenses that are gonna come up with the renew projects.
Right.
And that's gonna bite us down the line for the future if we don't put something aside at this time.
any ideas, suggestions? I guess I gave mine, that's what I would like to see, but.
We can adopt this evening, correct, Nicole, and then lower our next,
Can't go up.
right, but you can give
You
us
could
those numbers.
adopt it as is right now, and then make that decision for the final and lower the rate, the levy at that point.
Everybody's quiet.
Well, I'm-
Cricket.
we don't have a visual of our options that you said
No,
about.
I should have put that in, and I.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to remember, the numbers
Yeah.
of what,
Right.
I can't.
I'm still comfortable with what the council just talked about here, using just a hair more of that fund balance. We still have the public hearing for the December 4th and the continuation on December 11th, which at that time Nicole will have those in front of us,
Yep, yeah, I can make sure you have those, yeah.
right, using that fund balance. I'm fine with that. Offer the resolution, waive the reading to accept the preliminary 2019 budget for the city of New Ulm with total appropriations of $23,769,215 and a maximum property tax levy of $7,857,525. Set the public hearing dates for December 4th, 2018 at 6 p.m. and the continuation public hearing for December 11th, 2018 at 6 p.m. if needed to consider the 2019 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to offer the resolution, waived reading. Any more discussion?
I still don't know if I think when we make a motion like this, that it allows us to leave it at that level, and I'm not comfortable with that. I like our president's recommendation a little bit better than that, but I'm not going to vote for this. So I think it just allows us to say yes in December, because that's what we budgeted, and
I mean, I don't have the numbers to read into there at this time.
Nicole can give them to you.
Paul can give it to us, right? Or we could make a
At this
motion to
time you
that
can?
effect.
Yeah, if you wanted to get to the point, where, how did I word that? Where it wouldn't change the tax rate, you'd have to use 98,000 more of the fund balance, which still leaves the fund balance at 59% and changes the levy to 535,000. Where'd that number go?
Actually, as far as the motion's concerned, you'd have to take 98,000 off of this tax levy.
Yep.
Right.
Right, if you gave me the number, I could have,
So
Well,
just
didn't know if you
just
could give me
make your
that.
motion.
just do the math,
She'll figure it out.
subtract that off of this, and
Yeah, we've done that before where it's taken our finance director to the next day to figure the final exact number. But I can live with that. but-
I would suggest this motion then would be to request that the finance director reduce the levy by $98,000 and set that as the preliminary levy, and then we'll do that on paper so that the next time we address this, you'll have the current numbers.
Right.
So we don't have a correction, Roger. I can rescind that motion and just go back to the maximum property tax levy of $77,857,525 minus
Minus
98,000. I need the number.
I don't think you got a second, did you?
I second
Not
it.
yet.
I
There was a
second
Oh,
it.
yeah, you did second.
Yeah.
I second it.
Yeah.
You can amend your motion.
Could move to amend the motion, right?
Yep. You can amend the motion.
Okay, I'll move to amend the motion, and setting that maximum property tax level of, got the number for me, Nicole? I can read it right in.
No, I didn't do the math.
Say $98,000 less than state.
It'd be 759.
I'm going between a few spreadsheets here. I'm
Who's the
not
math
getting
major?
there.
Where's your calculator?
Well, if you took 100,000 away,
Yeah.
you'd be at 7,757, and you're only taking 98, so you add 2,000 onto that, and you should have your number.
Oh, here we go. 7,759,528.
Oh, I was $3 off.
Yeah.
My-
So you can
Amending the maximum property tax levy of 7 million, say it again.
What they
Michael.
said.
7,759,528.
759,528.
Second.
There we go.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? That was
Mr.
the
President, I
motion
think
authorization.
I think you have to move to amend your resolution, vote on that, and then if that passes, then you're voting on the amended resolution.
Okay.
The second time.
So we need a second to amend the motion.
All right.
I will second it to amend.
Okay, now we need a new motion. Correct?
Well,
No,
we have
you'd
a-
vote on the
Had
amendment.
to vote on
Okay.
the
Vote it,
amendment.
oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? Go ahead.
So
Now the
then, now
motion.
you'd be voting on the amended,
You'd make the new motion.
no, you've got the amended resolution that's been made, so you'd now be offering the resolution, waive the reading, you do the roll call, and
Okay, we got a motion and a second off the resolution, waive the reading. Any more discussion? Finance Director, please call the roll.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. We made it through it. Item 5E, first reading of ordinance number 18-026, fifth series, amending section 7.25 of the city codes, City of New Ulm relative to regulating special vehicles. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend certain subdivisions of current code section 7.25. The ordinance is drafted does not include the entire section 7.25. Other parts will remain in place. Excuse me, the ordinance would be ordinance number 18-026, fifth series, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota. An ordinance regulating special vehicles, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of New Ulm. Section 1, that the following subdivisions of Section 7.25 of the City Code of the City of New Ulm are hereby amended as follows. Section 7.25, snowmobile and all-terrain vehicle traffic control and regulations. Subdivision 1, scope of application. Notwithstanding provisions of this chapter to the contrary, this section shall apply to control of traffic and regulation of those classes of vehicles falling within the definition of snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles, as such vehicles are defined by Minnesota statutes as to matters set forth herein. All provisions of this chapter not relating to matters herein stated applies equally to snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles as other vehicles. Additional provisions regarding all-terrain vehicles are found in section 7.26. Subdivision 3, hours of operation, is a misdemeanor to operate a snowmobile within the city from 12 o'clock midnight or to 7 a.m. of each day, except in an emergency as defined in subdivision 5, subparagraph B. Subdivision 5, operation on roadways. It is a misdemeanor for any person to operate a snowmobile upon a roadway except as follows. Subdivision C, to make a direct crossing of a roadway, which shall be made only as follows. The snowmobile should be brought to a complete stop before crossing the shoulder or main traveled way of the roadway. D, if operation of a snowmobile on a roadway is permitted pursuant to one of the exceptions set forth above, such operation shall be subject to the following rules. Subdivision 6, a snowmobile shall not be driven at a speed in excess of 10 miles per hour. Subdivision 8, minimum age of all-terrain vehicle operator. Person under 12 years of age shall not make a direct crossing of a street, operate an all-terrain vehicle on a public street or right-of-way, or operate an all-terrain vehicle on lands or waters owned by or under the control of the city. A person 12 years of age or older but less than 16 years of age may make a direct crossing of a street only if the person possesses a valid all-terrain vehicle safety certificate and is accompanied by another all-terrain vehicle by a person 18 years of age or older who holds a valid driver's license. No person under the age of 16 shall otherwise operate an all-terrain vehicle on a roadway. For purposes of this subdivision, direct crossing is the same meaning as in subdivision 5C of this section. Section 2, that in all other respects, the provisions of section 7.25 remain in full force and effect. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect and shall be enforced 30 days from and after its adoption, approval, and publication.
Thank you. Item 6A, consider a motion to proceed into a closed session to hold under the attorney-client privilege exception to open meeting law pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B and 13D.01 subdivision 3 to discuss the terms of the city manager Brian Grummett separation from employment.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Tom, would you like to be on this committee, this Herman